Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. So you know how like the news keeps getting weirder and weirder all the time within the cryptocurrency space? Well, let me introduce you to this video because so for those of you who missed it, Bitcoin had its halving. It was in the news, but it wasn't like mega popular news. And then before that, we heard that Bitcoin had actually surpassed the valuation of all silver on the planet. Also true news. We also had news recently that like explicitly that banks are getting into the space. We heard that Germany's federal bank, the largest federal bank in Germany, is also getting into Bitcoin. What else is there? It's been nonstop good news. But those news stories, I almost had to like dig for sometimes. I was like, oh gosh, like this is amazing news, but no one's talking about it. The cryptocurrency space has a very weird history of news that's not important being the most popular news story that's currently out there, and this is one of them. This is everywhere news. This wasn't like a small fraction of the space. This was on every single website talking about the exact same thing. And I say, needed to preface all of that simply because this news is not more important than us surpassing the valuation of gold. I mean, of silver, or gold as well, but what have you. So the news is Binance, otherwise known as Binance, is set to return to India after months away from the nation. Let me explain. Back in good old 2017, about 900 years ago, the cryptocurrency market began to flourish. We had never heard of this space and people making money. It was absolutely fantastic. For some reason, there were a number of countries who began to announce that they were thinking of banning cryptocurrencies because they were evil and wicked and all these other words that they were throwing out there, and India was one of them. And India claimed that they were going to have cryptocurrency regulation within a couple of months. This was in 2018. And then fast forward all the way to 2022 and still no regulations. And they keep saying that they have things that are going to go to the parliament, or this is going to happen, and they're going to make sure that people have rules and regulations. And that, as far as I understand, as I am not in India, they still do not have these rules and regulations. We started getting news that Coinbase, I believe maybe Gemini as well, and Binance were entering the Indian market. This was around 2021. And then around 2023, we started getting news that these crypto exchanges did not have, paperwork. They were not allowed to work in India. And part of my problem was, and I remember saying this in a video, was I find it very hard to believe that Binance, Coinbase, and Gemini would have made sure to enter the Indian market illegally and not file any kind of paperwork. So Binance was actually at the forefront of this. I'm not sure how the other ones managed to do it so quickly. Maybe something with money, who knows? But Binance was at the very front of the line as far as like getting in trouble and being made an example of, because we heard that Binance had to leave essentially the United States. And this is why they created Binance US, which I think is also no longer a thing as far as I understand. It's probably because of BlackRock money. Who knows? And then also we heard that Binance was leaving a couple of other countries, and they all made it seem as if Binance was laundering money and Binance was doing this. And once again, very, very hard to believe that a company that's worth billions and billions, who's trying to be worth trillions, would make sure that they entered one of the largest markets on the planet, India, and explicitly wanted to do something illegal. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And then lo and behold, Binance was kicked out of India. It made gigantic news, and people were talking about the fall of Binance and the fall of Changpeng Zhao and the fall of Binance Coin. And I was like, something doesn't seem right. It probably has to do with some kind of money thing behind the scenes. Lo and behold, The major news story of the day is that Binance is about to re-enter India, and it says Indian regulators accused Binance of failing to comply with local policies. As a result, and here's the best part. So for those of you who don't know, paperwork takes a long amount of time, and I've heard many a story about India that apparently when you want something done, you better wait about 7 years because that's how long it's going to take for you to get your paperwork. In an odd instance, for some reason, this only took like a couple of weeks for them to, I wonder what the issue was. Even crazier. So you know how like the SEC is always like enacting fines on companies, and the fines are like $74 million, $118 million, like those kinds of things? This was a $2 million fine. And I say that in a very like first world manner, if you will, because $2 million as far as a fine, a penalty, is not a lot of money. When you look at also for those of you who missed the video, the $40 billion that JP Morgan has had to pay in fines, $2 million is nothing. That means that this was a squabble over $2 million, and they tried to defame Binance over it. Binance will be paying a $2 million fine, blah, 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 blah. Indian regulators acted against crypto exchanges such as OKX, KuCoin, and Binance. India's Financial Intelligence Unit, really? Financial Intelligence, okay, claimed these exchanges were non-compliant with local rules. Binance looks set to re-enter the country's market as it reportedly agreed to a fine. Can you imagine? You know how many... You know how much money some companies are fined? I mean, the fines are literally like $33 million. And they have negotiations over like years being like, no, I'm not paying you $33 million for something that I didn't do. This country was like, oh, you have problems. $2 million. I'm sure the people from Binance dug into their pockets and took that money out. The settlement grants Binance new status, and the exchange will operate as a registered entity. So the myth and the legend around India, for those of you who don't know, is its population. They're now the most populous country on the planet. I believe with 1.3 billion people now. That's a lot of people. One of the ideas for a long time has been that it is believed that currently there are over 100 million people in the cryptocurrency space. That is to say, into Bitcoin, into altcoins collectively around the world. India, as they do not and have not had proper cryptocurrency regulations, is basically a literal gold mine at this point. The idea being, if you have 1.3 billion people, and let's say realistically 10% of them enter the cryptocurrency market, you've essentially doubled the amount of people in crypto. You essentially more than double prices. It's kind of this thing where people have really been trying to make sure that cryptocurrencies happen within India. But between regulators and policy makers, they have yet to come up with any cryptocurrency. I mean, even in 3 years ago, it was even more ridiculous, as they were literally saying in 3 weeks, we're going to have laws. And they go, yeah, it wasn't in any paperwork in Parliament. I guess we'll try next year. And they kept on lying and pushing out all these companies. It's basically because, as far as I understand from the outside looking in, having gone over the news, while corruption is quite high in many places, the news that we've been getting is that corruption in India is even more corrupter. And this is basically because, from what we understand, is that the government is trying to get complete control over the monetary system. They're trying to phase out paper currency, which isn't working very well because they took 100, I'll say 50 years making sure that basically, I'll say it this way. Rich people don't like poor people, and as such, they have kept a gigantic portion of their nation and many other nations as well. This is happening around the world out of their monetary system. This is why you typically don't see banks in poor neighborhoods because they don't like us. So what ends up happening is that now, as everything is trying to become digitized, you forced a whole bunch of people out of the system, so they're working outside of the system. And this is why we've seen a lot of people who are the disenfranchised around the world moving more into the cryptocurrency and into the Bitcoin space. But now, as those numbers continue to rise around the country and around the world, these governments are trying to pull people back in to once again lie and say that Bitcoin is evil and terrible because they see the debasement of their currencies and that people are using their fiat a lot less than they were before. I was going to try and say something very nice and, flowery, but no, that's basically what it is. India with a bunch of other countries are trying to not only get around the US dollar, but also trying to make it seem as if Bitcoin is something more terrible than it actually is. But that's because the people who print the money have the power. And if everyone on the planet can mine Bitcoin and they can print the money, then the people have the power. And then the governments lose power, and that's not what they want. I said it pretty easily. Yes, this was the THEEEEEEE most popular news story of the day. It was all over the place. I was actually quite shocked at how popular this news actually was. It's not, once again, not that it shouldn't be. It's just more of I feel like so many other things have been going on that make a lot more sense that should have been popular. But yeah, a $2 million fine. I'm sure that's gonna. These people make $3 billion a week. I just don't understand why $2 million. Who is that benefiting exactly? Because it's not benefiting the public. Also, tying directly into this news, Binance's back at it again. Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange by trading volume, has said that they have been awarded a full virtual asset service provider VASP license in Dubai's Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority, VARA, almost a year after entering the third stage of the Emirates' four-stage process. So I thought this was kind of all done with. Apparently not. I don't understand why things take forever. We got news years ago that Binance had entered Dubai and they were doing business there, and everyone was like, yay, Dubai. But it turns out that this is a multi-year process as far as being regulated or getting regulated there. Can anyone explain to me why it takes so long? I have actual questions, why is this a multi-year thing to get paperwork? The other part is that, yeah, they finally have a virtual asset services provider license in Dubai, which of course lends to the idea of Dubai, rich people, Binance, crypto, rich people, money, rich people kind of thing. This is why I assume people are excited about this. They said, as we secure the esteemed full market VASP license, VASP? I'll say VASP. It notably amplifies our unwavering commitment to advancing the financial landscape through compliance and innovation. This was said by the CEO. This achievement embodies our dedication to transparency, regulatory compliance, and a responsible growth in the dynamic digital assets domain. I always wonder why companies have to say things like that. It's always very cringe for me. I know that you as a company have to put out something like this to be thank you very much. We are very happy that we got the paperwork that we applied for 3 years ago. But it's also no company is going to release something being yeah, we don't care. We didn't even want to be here. Give us your money. Transparency? We're not going to even try and do that. Regulating? No, we're going to make money our own way. You understand? So it almost always seems redundant to have to release something like this to be oh, thank goodness Binance said that they're regulatory. No, we knew that you were going to. I didn't expect you to not follow the rules after you've been trying to get paperwork for a number of years. Anyway, cool. Yeah, also very popular news. I guess it's because of Dubai and money and paperwork and because they're Binance. So it's great and wonderful that we keep not getting news that crypto or crypto exchanges are banned in different countries. But if I could be a fly on the wall, it's always so weird because I'm sure all of this just comes down to money. Like, as far as like, we need our cut and these kinds of things. And I wish the world was simpler, but that's another conversation completely for another time. So, yeah, Binance is apparently going to be back in India. There's no time frame. Maybe it's today. I'm not in India. I don't know, and I can't tell you. And also, they got paperwork done in Dubai, so they can also do business there now as well. I think there's like 4 or 5 other countries that also have banned, air quotes, Binance. But to be fair, they've also like lightly banned crypto. And I mean, the levels of corruption there are just like Batman movie villain kind of levels. So fantastic. That's the Binance is getting paperwork done news. $2 million fine. Are you joking? There are plots of land that cost more. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's move on. Also in popular news, I don't really know where to place this one. Ernst Young, one of the leading global accounting firms, has announced a major step forward in their contract management by leveraging blockchain technology. They've created something called Ops Chain. Okay. Ops Chain Contract Manager. And it uses blockchain technology to store company contracts. Fantastic. Where's the other part? The Ops Chain Contract Manager will be using or running on Polygon. And apparently that is until it is going to run entirely on Ethereum after a future migration. But if we can speak plainly here, I assume it will not be running on Ethereum until they are as quick as Polygon, because everyone's using Polygon as their scaling solution because Ethereum, the main chain, still has not scaleth. We are still not at that 50, 100,000 and or 1 million transactions per second for Ethereum. So quite popular news in that, once again, I am of the hyper belief that a lot of people in crypto are very new and simply do not know, how do I say this, that these things have and are already taking place. So a number of companies years ago, this is one of the reasons how I knew that Ethereum was going to be popular and I air quotes here, had already made it. Because back in 2017, so the Ethereum Foundation, as far as I understand, came to be in 2014, 2015. I think that's what it was. But very quickly, it gained a huge amount of popularity amongst companies who established something called the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. And this is a consortium of hundreds of companies that who announced their support for Ethereum. And that was one of the things for me, because up until that point, everyone was spewing nonsense about how evil and terrible and horrible the cryptocurrency space was and how Bitcoin was this and that. But then Ethereum came out, and then the Enterprise came out, and everyone was talking about how amazing Ethereum was. So for those of you who've never seen this, got part of the list right here. These are the more popular names who are on it. I'm not going to go through all of them. If you're not looking, their names on the screen. There's a lot of mega companies who are using Ethereum, are going to be using Ethereum, or have announced their support that in the future they're going to be integrating with Ethereum in some sort of way. A lot of you might have seen these names. These are gigantic companies. So a lot of times when we do, and this is also for those of you looking at it, this is why JP Morgan Chase is here, and why I think Jamie Dimon is always so critical of Bitcoin, is because he probably has an egregious amount of Ether. It's usually how it ends up working. Yeah, these companies have been working with Ethereum for a number of years, and they've integrated it all in some way. The issue usually ends up being is that when some news like the Ernst Young news ends up coming out and people go, that's brand new. And it's like, yeah, it's significant, but it's not brand new. This is why once again, when you talk about daily cryptocurrency news, the significance is that we continuously get this good news every single day. But a lot of people tend to overlook this stuff and or forget about it very, very quick as if it didn't happen. So when we constantly hear news about companies, organizations, countries accumulating and buying and hoarding Bitcoin, and then we get news that Bitcoin's price has fallen by 3% one day, everyone's crying because they're like, why is the price down? And I'm like, have you forgotten all the news that we've been getting nonstop about Bitcoin? So whenever I see any kind of negativity and or questions about Ethereum, while Ethereum is not the number one coin, do you see the amount of usage? Like, it is the most used blockchain that we have on the planet. Ethereum will continue to exist. The problem is that much of the narrative for Ethereum is usually not these companies that you see on the screen. I think a lot of people forget about all of these things and exactly how popular Ethereum is with enterprises and institutions. But yeah, so cool. Ernst Young, who is already a partner of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, has created something that's also going to be using blockchain. It's on top of Polygon. They don't say so explicitly, but that's because Polygon is much quicker than Ethereum. In the future, we're supposed to have a faster Ethereum chain, but until then, the ops chain, terrible name. The ops chain contract manager will be running on Polygon. We've gotten a lot of news like this sprinkled throughout the years, but it never usually ends up being popular for a number of reasons. I mean, more so is that it's Ernst Young using it, and it will not normally have a direct effect on the price immediately, but it's more so, everyone's tying or looping their chain and their fabric like into this system more and more. And this also is part of the reason why I'm constantly bullish. I'm never not bullish on this space. We may have some, slower days, but it's like we have already integrated into the world in a very, very big way. But for some reason, people focus on prices and don't look at all these amazing things that we have in front of us. Think about that. Look at all these companies and institutions. They have openly announced. You can even Google it. If you want to, you can type in on Google, Enterprise Ethereum Alliance members. You'll be able to see it for yourself. Anywho, that's the Ernst Young is going to be using their ops chain. Did no one tell them? Okay. Okie dokie. All right. Let's move on. Also in news, I guess, the United States, the United Kingdom, and Germany rank among the top countries holding cryptocurrencies at a government level. This is according to data from Arkham Intelligence. Arkham Intelligence always sounds like a Batman thing. I mean, it's called Arkham. The crypto analytics firm's on-chain analysis. So here's the weird part. I don't know where they got this data from. This news was quite popular. These numbers don't really look familiar to me. And listen, every single day I make a video about the cryptocurrency news. Every single day. And I have never heard these numbers about the United Kingdom, nor have I ever heard these numbers about Germany. And for those of you who've been here watching this channel for 8 years, 1, high five, thank you for your support. 2, these will also sound unfamiliar to you because I've never seen them before. However, Batman Intelligence has announced that they found these numbers, and this is what they believe to be true, that apparently these governments are holding this many Bitcoin. They say that the US government has 212,847 Bitcoin. That sounds correct because we heard before that they had 240,000, but they actually had 300,000. They sold a huge amount to, I think it was Tim Draper, and then they had 240,000, and I think 20 or so, 30,000, something like that, recently got transferred to Coinbase or something like that a couple of months ago. That one sounds correct. It says, while El Salvador has been purchasing 1 Bitcoin daily. This was announced by their president, I think, a year and some change ago. And then remember, oh my gosh, people are ridiculous. The president of El Salvador announced that they have adopted Bitcoin as legal tender, and that the government would be buying 1 Bitcoin a day. I think like 5 weeks ago, we heard that El Salvador wasn't buying 1 Bitcoin a day. Some days they were buying 14. Some days they were buying 23. And people on Twitter were like, you guys lied to us. And it's like, you want them to buy less Bitcoin? I don't know that was such a weird video. People were getting upset. They were like, we feel lied to. And I'm like, because they have more? They understand the value of Bitcoin. So forgive them for not just buying 1 Bitcoin a day as a country. And they're like, hey, let's maybe get a couple hundred because, we also want to be trillionaires. That was a very weird day. Leveraging on-chain data analysis. Blockchain intelligence firm Arkham Intelligence, name, has created a dashboard featuring the governments with the biggest crypto holdings. Arkham shared on Twitter on Friday. They said, for each country, you can see their current Bitcoin balance history in US dollars, and a real-time feed of their most recent transactions. The analytics firm's data shows the US government as the top crypto holder, holding 212,000 BTC, in addition to other currencies including Ether. Never heard that before. Trailing behind is the British government with 61,245 Bitcoin. And the German government, allegedly with 49,859 Bitcoin, also never heard those numbers. Every single day I go over the news. Meanwhile, Arkham's in data shows that apparently El Salvador has 5,719 Bitcoin. And here's their thing right here. I have all the questions. Every single question that could ever be asked, simply because how did you get this information? Where did you get this information from? The US one is quite easy because we've known the US's address for a long time because of Silk Road and wasn't Mt. Gox. There was also some other big thing that also happened. So we've seen the inflows into this one address, and we've seen the outflows as they were selling it at an auction and Tim Draper was buying it. Got it. The other part is the UK government has never been in the news, ever, even rumored to be buying Bitcoin, ever. If anyone can find this information, please post it. Please show it. Send it to me on Twitter. That'd be great. Same exact thing with Germany. We know that their largest federal bank is getting into Bitcoin. There's never been news about an associated address with the German government that has accumulated and or sold any kind of Bitcoin. We've never gotten Bitcoin mining news from the UK or Germany. Weird, right? Weird, but interesting nonetheless. Maybe more of this story will unfold. Maybe we'll be able to find out more about it, how they got this information. Because this does make a lot of sense. It's cool to have numbers and stuff on a screen, but can you provide like a little blurb to be like, we saw this, we got this information from that? Not knocking it. It's just more of I would love more information, because if these numbers are actually true, that also sets us on another course to be like, there's definitely even less Bitcoin than we thought. How long have these governments been holding this Bitcoin? The US government's been holding this Bitcoin since 2013, 2014. Have the German government and the British government been buying Bitcoin since 2013, 2014 as well? That would be huge, especially if we look back and we see them say anything negative about Bitcoin over the course of the last 10, 11, 12 years. And I mean, El Salvador has 5,719 Bitcoin. Was anyone really expecting them to only have like 365 Bitcoin at this point? Because I was not. I know if I was a government and I had extra money to buy 5,000 Bitcoin, you bet your gosh darn rear end I would. Anyway, that's the interesting, not substantiated as far as I can currently tell, but incredibly interesting nonetheless, because how much are other governments holding? Do they also have that information? Do we have theirs? Remember, for those of you who might have forgotten, we heard that there are 9 countries who are actively using Bitcoin for imports and exports. And they're all countries who are under US sanctions. Can we have data about those countries? If we can see those movements on chain, because that would also probably, raise a couple eyebrows of people being like, these governments are now holding more than 500,000 Bitcoin. But I digress. Yeah, methinks that's going to do it for this video. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.